Now let us understand the config map. As the name suggests, it creates a set of key value pairs. Either it could be one or more. Now here is what this YAML file is doing is that it is creating a key with a value this one and then the kind is config map. And the key value pair lives within the data, right? And then you can see that we are trying to create a config map and giving a name my dash config map. Okay. So now if I go into the pod, before I create the config map, I want to show how can I use that config map. So I create a pod, a very simple pod using that config map. The value I set inside the config map will be loaded within this pod as an environment variable. So what I'm doing is that I'm using my dash config map as the config map name, which I'm going to create first, and then get the key one from that to create an environment variable. And also this test container, what it is doing, it is basically using busybox to display the environment variable. So if I open the log, once it is created, I'll be able to see all the environment variables. So let's just see that. Okay. Now let me apply them. Apply -f config map dot YAML. Config map is created. To check the config map, you can always go and say get cm. That's a config map. You can see that your my config map available here. Now, if you say get cm my config map, and this has the some value, right? You can also say YAML. That will be YAML value, and you can see that it basically stores some super important as the key1 value. That's the data. Now let us create the pod. So to create a pod, let us apply -f config map dash pod.yaml, and then the file has the pod creation instruction. So if you just see what all pod running, you can see it is running completed. That means the thing has been activated. So I get logs, and then I say pod config map. And if I do that, then I will see that it basically loaded the environment variable within its console because that was the command I ran within that. And one of them is the key it is using is the key config map, which is basically leveraging the value from the config map that is some super important. Okay, so you can essentially pass on your username and password if you are dynamically changing them, and then the application can read it from its environment variable within that pod running the container. Now, in terms of how secret works, so secret are the base 64 encoded text, which you don't otherwise want user to read normally. So you can create secret. So let us see how we can create a secret. So let us see the secret YAML. And then if I just open it up, it basically has got a username, which is base 64 encoded, and then the password, which is base 64 encoded. It is not encrypted, so make no mistake that you can actually copy it and then run a base 64 decoding utility within your Linux to read the plain text. So it is not safe and secure in that sense, but normally user will not be able to read it easily. So that's why we sometimes use secret for making it not so obvious. So the kind is secret, the name is my secret. So let's create that secret first, okay? And then I will come back and then use this secret within my pod. To create, I'll say apply f secret.yaml. If I run this, the secret is created. So if you say get secret, you will find the secret here, the my secret is over here, and then say my secret for YAML. You get the output in YAML. So you can see that it is storing password and username inside data, just like ConfigMap, but within base 64 encoded string. That's fine. Now coming to the pod. So if you want to use this secret and then build a pod out of that. So what you can do, you can just use the BusyBox container and then load all the secret values as environment variables. So what I'm doing within this container is that creating two environment variables. One is secret username and reading from my secret. The key is username, and whatever the secret is there, it will be decoded and stored within this environment. So the environment variable will be plain text, okay? And then the secret is gonna password is again will be taken from my secret, and the password is the key and the value will come from. So if you change that password sometime, you just change the secret object and that should automatically reflect this pod when the pod is recreated, right? So it will be taken care in that way. So let us see that experience. Let's come out and then run this secret.yaml. And then I say that k apply -f, and then that will create a pod. Now, once the pod is created, let's get pod, and you see the pod name, it's completed, and k logs, whatever the pod name is. Let me just paste it over here and then see the log. Now, the secret username is AMI and user, and then secret password is secret password. Okay, this is now decoded. Now, this is plain text in environment variable because my application I haven't probably written how to decode it, so I just put that. But if you want to keep even the environment variable as decoded, then you have to handle that from your application to uh, encode it, and then in the application you need to decode it to be able to read it. But when you use secret, secret is always stored using base 64 encoded string. When they are loaded as an environment variable, they are loaded as a decoded value, which is plain text, right?